Yeah, bro. Appreciate you coming, bro. Like,
No doubt. Thanks for having me.
we were trying to figure this out since like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Why not? But we were looking at your last name. Are you German?
I'm German and Swiss. Yeah.
Oh man.
Really?
How did you figure that out?
I was like
It
literally.
just sounded like you.
Okay.
I was Google searching and I was trying to
a
figure
lot of
out.
a lot of people think my last name is like Czech or Eastern European, which it probably is because all those countries kind of were, Poland and Germany and a lot of Eastern European countries kind of meshed in. But I think the origins might be like Czech, but I am known as German and Swiss.
Dope, man.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming, and I know you're a busy man. You have like a bunch of like
all good.
a portfolio of different things. You got different brands of businesses you're running.
Never too busy for the homies.
Nah, man, I
that's
appreciate
right.
it, man. Appreciate it.
Got to make the time for anyone that's hustling and doing cool stuff. So I'm always down.
Hell yeah, man. I seen that you just worked with Addias on that collab you just did.
Yeah.
How was that?
Too.
Oh, it was great, man. It was super fun. A few, maybe like a year and a half ago, Addias approached us and said they want to do a project with Atlas. And long story short, is like one of our team writers, his name's Mark Sutru, he's a professional skateboarder, kind of like came up through our store. And once he turned pro, I was like, we want to do a project. And then that kind of fizzled. And they don't really do projects with like brands/stores. It's more so with like strictly brands, whatever. And they were like, we're ready to roll out this like other like kind of series of collabs that we want to do, and we want to have Atlas be like the launch of this collab. And of course I was like, no doubt.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. Like it not to like toot our horn, but it's a big deal to be able to do a collab with Addias and legit like from scratch. And so they pulled us into it, and we came up with this concept of community first, where like we wanted to not just have it be all about us, but have it be about the community, because we wouldn't exist without the community. So it was just about giving shine. Yeah,
that's dope, man. You worked with YSF, right? For the photo shoot, right?
Yeah. Well, okay, so that's Harvey. Harvey's my boy, and he was there. The photo shoot for that was done by Justin Ching, who's like a good photographer friend of ours, who came up through Atlas as well, who shoots a lot of stuff for various brands such as Huff and Levi's, The Gap, whatnot. But
it's fire.
Yeah. So we want, like, the nonprofits we highlighted was, we started off with All in SF, The City Eats.
I did some work with them. Like I did the Saturday or Sundays, they like give out food in the Tenderloin.
Yep.
Yeah, they're dope people.
Great people, and we have a great relationship with them. So we work with them regularly. So wanted to give shine to The City Eats, and then there's SF Skate Club, who do amazing work in the skate community, nonprofit work, and then Town Park with our boy K-Dub out in the East Bay, out in Oakland.
So okay.
I seen so you're a collab with Addias.
Mm-hmm.
How does the creative
How's that flow?
Yeah, like when you guys collab, how do you guys just come up with these designs?
Yeah. So there's a million ways to go about it. I mean, it could just be something that's like, we just want this thing that looks cool. But I really try to have a concept behind it and tell a story. I think storytelling is huge, and to be able to tell a story rather than just have something that like looks cool, to explain why it looks a certain way, it kind of helps. So
for sure.
When we did, in the past we've done like Nike projects, and there's a deep concept behind it, and we try to take that same philosophy with the Addias one, but not have it be so much like we're gonna do like a Jarritos Addias and have it look like a Jarritos packaging or whatever.
Yeah.
This one was like about community first. That was the concept, and then it's like, all right, what does the community look like? If you take if you look at it from a satellite view, that Bay Area has a certain look. It's very green. It looks like a big forest or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was the idea with like the green highlights on the shoe and the packaging, and green being kind of like the leading color in a lot of the branding around it.
Yeah.
And the orange was to tie in with the California poppy.
Dope.
Yeah.
That's a dope colorway, man. I mean, you're rocking them right now, right?
No, I'm not rocking them right now. These are different.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Those
they look.
They're actually very similar. And what's funny is some of the comments on most of the comments were like pretty positive. There was one that was like, "There's no way this isn't plagiarism." I'm like, do you realize how long it takes to come up with a shoe? We don't like. We didn't just, design the shoe in 1 week it's out. Like,
right.
And these shoes, the colorways for the shoe didn't leak like for, maybe a month up to the shoe came out. So no one knew what these shoes were going to look like. Yeah. So that's always cute when people say stuff like that, but people need to talk on the internet,
Yeah, obviously. I mean, there's always going to be trolls, right?
Of course. And I just kind of laugh at that stuff. I'm like, that's pretty comical, but they actually is a very similar colorway and they dropped like, I think the same week.
Really?
Yeah.
I was like, holy fuck, you got them on. But that's dope, man. So back to like the creative process, like working with brands. Mm-hmm. Do you have that kind of like tie with like working with a brand like Addias? You said Nike as well. Mm-hmm. What other brands have you worked with?
Through Atlas, it's like I wouldn't be able to list them all off, but we've worked with a handful of brands. We worked with like Levi's, like with our 10-year anniversary, we did a little capsule collection with them, a big celebration. We were able to have like DJ Peanut Butter Wolf, DJ at our actual event, and that was like a few years ago for our 10-year. And we've done a couple projects. We've done like 3 dunks with Nike SB. Yeah. 2 were part of this project called the 35mm project, where the shoes look like cameras. They were inspired by film photography and whatnot. Inspired. Yeah. So that was a few years ago, and then recently we did this other project with a dunk high, and we called it the Lost at Sea, and it was like this big story about a shipping container that like tipped over and a bunch of shoes washed up on the shore. So that's what that shoe was inspired by, and that was a true story.
Damn.
But as far as other projects, I mean, we've worked with a ton of skate brands such as like Real Skateboard, Spitfire Wheels. It's this actually we did a project with the City Eats. So
that's dope, man.
But those are a few notable fire. Ones. Yeah,
that's fire, man. I really appreciate like you're like really going in the community, and especially the thing you're doing at City Station.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
man.
Fucking fire, man.
Thank you.
So like, can you? We were talking about it yesterday, but you said you did that in your teen or you're in college.
College years, yeah. So it was like early 20s. So I'm born and raised in the Bay. I'm raised in the peninsula, and
San Mateo.
I was raised in Redwood City, and pretty much Redwood City.
Oh, okay.
I was born at Stanford Hospital. Grew up in Belmont for a little bit, and then moved to Hawaii for a couple, like 3.5 years, and then moved back to the Bay when I was like 14 and a half.
That's it.
Yeah, moved to Redwood City. Back to Redwood City, and came up here to go to school, and moved to the city like in 2002, and worked a valet parking job, and then that company went out of business. We had a bunch of employees that were working on this company, and me and a couple of friends were like, why don't we start our own thing? No one has a job right now. We might as well, there's 30 people that just lost their job like that. And we started a valet parking company while in college, and it ended up working like for, I think it lasted about 20 years.
Oh, holy shit.
Which is crazy.
Wild,
it's crazy. But the lot was this thing that I told myself, as soon as my student loans are paid off, I'll want to flip this into like a community space. And I had done a couple like small events there prior to that idea, and I was like, this is a hell of a location. And I watched the rapid change on Valencia Street happen. Like there was a gas station across the street. Now it's a fancy condo,
right?
High-end restaurants. And I was like, I think there needs to be a space like this that exists for people that don't necessarily have, a crazy amount of cash to throw into like a storefront on Valencia Street.
Yeah.
Or if they have a concept they want to do that, they can try it out there.
Right.
So that's how that concept came about. And Senor Sisig was actually kind of like the real case study for that.
Oh, right, because I always see them posted up right there, right?
They were posted up there, and they were like the first, like locked in official, like that's their spot. And then they opened up the restaurant down the street. But that was their way to like test it out, and the Mission District community loves Senor Sisig. So.
Yeah, man. Fuck yeah, they got the vegan options. I'm vegan.
Yeah, I'm vegetarian, so I love the vegan ones too. And like, and it totally works for, I think, that area. And then we started doing these like markets. Doom at the MF Doom tribute Doomsday.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen that. You got the drawing.
Yeah.
It's dope, man.
We did a big like event around then. It's just about like having it be a community space that's a lower barrier of entry to try something out.
Yeah, I mean yesterday it was dope. Christian threw the event,
crazy.
Right?
That was crazy.
And sales was good, man.
Good.
And the weather was beautiful.
It was a perfect day.
Perfect day. Man.
Yeah, that was a perfect day.
Yeah. But back when you were talking about like paying off school debt, I seen that you worked. You went to the academy.
I went to the Academy of Art. Yeah.
How was that?
It was interesting. It wasn't. it's like I'm trying to like find the way without disparaging the school. I had some,
I mean, shit. I mean, look, my brother went there for culinary.
Yeah.
He had to pay a ton of money. He didn't even finish
crazy.
doing it. And
yeah,
I mean, that's how it is.
It's a wild one, man. I mean, like it's ridiculously expensive. I had to pay my way through college, and when you rack up over 100K in debt, it's a pretty daunting. It's pretty daunting, and it definitely forced like a certain like part of me to be like, I have to hustle and I have to like start a business, because if for some reason I don't want to enter this like line of work that I'm studying for, I'm kind of fucked. So I had to figure out, like, I had to kind of like diversify a little bit, which was a good thing, I think. But at the time I wasn't as focused as I could have been, because I just didn't have I didn't have the ability to turn that part of my brain off. That's like, you got this huge amount of debt piling up. Yeah. The pressure was a little crazy, but, so I would say like I had great teachers and I had some so-so teachers there, but what it taught me was that the advertising, because that's when I went to school for, was art direction for advertising. I was like, to go work at an ad agency is just not me. No. There's no way I could do it. I couldn't do it. There's no like, I wouldn't feel, and I'm not knocking people that are in the ad industry, like all for them, but for me, I didn't feel like the sense of like community there. I'm like, I
mean, look, think about it. It's a capitalistic way of selling. I mean, we live in a capitalistic society, right? We do. And that's the way of selling products. But it's kind of like brainwashing people, like, oh, drink this product and it's going to be healthy for you. Wow, it's like not necessarily really healthy.
Yeah, if it was for something that was like positive, that's great. But like, I didn't think that I would be able to have the luxury of deciding which brands I'm going to be, unless I started my own ad firm. Yeah. Going to work for someone, I'm going to work on whatever if they want me to sell Clorox, I got to sell Clorox. You know what I mean? Whatever it is.
I mean, it sounds soul sucking, like having to do that.
Let me turn this damn thing off. I thought I had it off. My bad. Thing will not stop.
It's all good, man.
All right.
Busy man.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, I'd say, there's just, I was like, I'd rather channel like my soul and creativity, whatever's in there, towards something that like is community focused. Fuck yeah. And something that represents something I truly believe in. That's kind of like how Atlas started.
That's basically what inspired you to make Atlas.
Yeah. I went to school for art direction for advertising, and had the valet business going. I had my like, kind of like, finally I was like, all right, I got somewhat of a stable foundation financially, to where I'm able to like pay my bills and pay my debts and feed myself without stressing, and it was like the opportunity of Atlas came about because there was a store I used to work for in San Mateo called DLXSM. So there's a DLXSM and SF. Those are the two stores, and DLX is Deluxe, which is a major like Bay Area, like San Francisco skate, like kind of conglomerate. They have a lot of brands underneath. And to me, I used to work at Deluxe San Mateo back when I was like 17. I was their first employee there. Wow. Yeah. So it kind of came full circle. And so they closed down because one of the founders, his name is Fausto Vitelli, he passed away, and I'm good friends with the family.
Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah. And so I asked for their blessing, and I was like, I want to be respectful. You guys are closing down the store. We would like to keep it going. Wow. We want to do our own thing. And they were like, absolutely, That's sick. They were very, very, very supportive. And that's how Atlas got started. And my mom at the time was living in San Mateo, so it was a way for me to like keep up with her, because she was elderly and needed like some care. So I was able to kind of like still be in school, still have my business up in the city, and then go down there to like do that.
Be supportive there.
Yeah, it really worked out.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
He was actually telling me like your family members, right?
My brothers and cousins grew up with DLXSF.
Oh, right on. Hell yeah.
So it's just dope to see the longevity.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. It's again community stuff, man. I mean, like since '97, that's kind of been, my role in that, like in the Bay Area skateboarding community. Yeah. And to be able to like have a shot to do not my own thing, but like to be like, all right, this is like our vision and how we're gonna execute this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Talking about the skateboard kind of part of it. How did you get into skateboarding? And I know San Francisco is like one of the skateboard meccas, right? Like
hell yeah.
90s, right?
Oh yeah. I got into skateboarding. My parents, when I was like 4, they got me like these little like banana boards. And I just was like, and when I lived in Belmont, it was like hilly, kind of like reminded me of Bernal where I live.
Oh, okay.
It's similar kind of like hilly and kind of small, narrow streets and whatnot. And I kind of learned how to like skate there at a really young age. But I wasn't like fully focused and like didn't take it serious then. And then I actually started really getting into it in Hawaii, because where I lived in Hawaii was like super cutty. It was on the Big Island, Hilo side. And I saw some people skating in the area where I lived, and where I lived was like really cutty and not a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, they're having a hell of fun. I want to do that. Yeah. And I just was like, I want to do that. And I like made up my mind that like, I'm going to get a board and I'm going to be a skateboarder. Like nice. It was just this weird like decision I made.
Yeah. That's sick, man.
And then it never stopped since then.
That's sick. Like, what kind of skateboard did you followed when you were younger, and like brands that you were like?
Yeah. Girl skateboards, chocolate skateboards, real. There was this other company that was like the Southern California conglomerate called World Industries. So they had like 101 blind skateboards. And a lot of that skateboarding was happening in San Francisco and LA, and a little bit in New York, but like San Francisco, LA.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was what I was into. And it was basically like mid 90s, like super, super fresh skateboarding. And a lot of the style that was happening in that time is very relevant right now.
Yeah.
Like very relevant. Like the gear that people are rocking, like it's like holy shit. Like a lot of rappers are wearing the stuff that like the skaters were wearing like in the mid 90s. It's kind of crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I love how skateboarding and like streetwear kind of combine.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's just like a beautiful thing. Like it's like a subculture, you know, like
Absolutely.
where there's like a way for like misfits or like punk rockers or like people that just like don't fit in.
Totally.
They like find a community within like streetwear or like
100%.
Skateboarding, you know? So
100%.
I see like dope. A lot of skaters wear dunks back in the days.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I remember I got my first job in 8th grade. My first check, I wanted a skateboard, but all my friends had penny boards. So at first I was like, oh,
yeah,
I want a penny board. So
yeah.
My first check, I was like,
the gateway. Penny board. It's the gateway. Yeah.
What kind of tricks do you know how to do?
Oh man, I usually don't talk myself up too much. I mean,
okay. Humble.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm trying to like what tricks do I mean, my favorite trick is a kickflip. It's just the most basic trick, but I think like if anybody has, I always appreciate a kickflip. It's like simple, but like when it's done right, it's one of the more beautiful things. Like kickflips, nollie flips, tray flips, backside tail slides. Those in K grinds, those are some of my favorite tricks.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, I always see like Embarcadero like full of skaters.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like there's a bunch of clips where like a bunch of brands do like tricks out there, man.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
That's where it started too in the 90s.
Yeah, Embarcadero.
Embarcadero.
Yeah. Actually, when I remember it was, I feel like it was 96 or 97, I can't remember. I was skating through Embarcadero, and there was this professional skateboarder named James Kelch, and he was like, me and my friend were skating, and he was like, you guys want to check out the new spot? And we were like, sure. And we were rolling through Embarcadero. He's like, you guys are going to trip when you see this. And he like skated over and took us to Pier 7, which at that time was like the spot. That was like the next chapter in like Embarcadero skateboarding.
Yeah.
And Pier 7 was like, and I got to like witness some of the most amazing skateboarding that is still like legendary to this day at a very young age, and like see it play out. And I wasn't like a part of like the like EMB crew or whatever, but I got to watch the OG EMB crew and then like the next generation come up. And there's a skateboarder named LeVar McBride who at that time I was like, one of the most incredible skateboarders, and is still incredibly legendary.
Yeah.
We got to witness a lot of that, and I was all in that zone.
That's fire, man.
Yeah.
What kind of skateboarders do you work with now with like Atlas? Do you have any like science skaters? Like part of a team or a skate crew?
I mean, we got a pretty dope team. I would say
like any local cats.
Yeah. Like trying to like think like an triple OG. This dude Tony Manfrey, who's like from SF. I think now he's living up in Forestville, but like SF OG skateboarder that has done a lot of like legendary stuff in skateboarding. He's one of our team riders. There's Joey Guevara, who's down in San Jose. There's Jesse Narvaez, who's up in the city. Mark Suchu, who's out in New York City, but Bay Area, grew up in the Bay and whatnot.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we got a handful of like really dope riders.
That's fire, man.
Yeah.
I really appreciate like how skateboarding has become like one of like the top sports. Like it's like all over now. You know, I feel like
Sure.
skateboarding before it was kind of like a low key thing.
Definitely was.
Like it kind of reminds me of like the graffiti artists. A bunch of them like skateboard.
What I love seeing is you ever like see the Dolores bombs?
Oh yeah,
they bomb all the Dolores.
Yeah, that shit's pretty wild.
Yeah,
but that's more just for like shits and giggles, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean it gets a little gnarlier than shits and giggles. It gets pretty crazy over there. Yeah.
So can you talk about the San Francisco council you're part of? You were mentioning.
Yeah. So I'm a board member. I'm a board member of the Mission District Merchants Association, and I got involved with that because I kind of got a crash course in Mission District politics with that lot project.
Really?
Actually, yeah. So when me and Evan from Senor CSIG were working on the project of getting the lot, we had a neighbor that didn't like the idea of it, and worked really hard to get it to not happen. Yeah. And the planning commission had actually shut down the project and said there can't be any food there, and we're like, well, without food this thing won't work.
Seriously.
Yeah. And the argument was that it was unfair competition. There was just a lot of weird arguments. I'm like, none of your arguments make sense. You have no idea what we pay, so to say it's unfair, right. I'm saying that I'm throwing out affordable solutions, but you shouldn't penalize those that don't have enough to like pay $12,000 for rent, right. But they don't know what I was paying. So like the argument just didn't really make sense. And I fought it with Evan, and we showed up at a hearing in front of the Board of Supervisors and had it overturned unanimously. And then I got pulled into the Mission Merchants because they were like, hey, like that was kind of crazy that you did that, because it was a unanimous decision to shut it down and you had it reversed unanimously. And I don't know if that's happened in decades. Yeah, or ever. Awesome, maybe not even ever. It was a pretty weird situation, but it taught me a lot. I got a crash course. Like basically in like a month I had to figure out a lot of shit about how to navigate San Francisco politics.
Did you have to like pay like a lot of lawyer fees, or you just did a lot of research on your own?
I mean, I had to do a lot of research on my own. I had to hire a lobbyist in order to help me.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like basically lobbyists, that's a lot, or permit expediters, they help project sponsors get their projects through. And to do it on your own with starting from scratch, it's really challenging. And I had to hire a lobbyist, aka expediter, by the name of Stefano Castellano, and he basically coached me through the appeal process, which was really intense. It wasn't cheap. It was a total waste of city resources. I mean, it was crazy.
That sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. But I learned a lot.
You got it right.
I look at it as a blessing in disguise, because like the education that I got out of that was like, was worth every penny. It was worth the whole experience. Like I don't look at it as like, oh, that was a horrible experience and I hate it. I think if I would have lost, I would have hated it. Yeah. But like, I mean, but like it worked out and I learned so much. And to like a day like yesterday, I'm like, this is what that fight was for.
Fuck yeah,
you know?
Hey man, I appreciate it, man. Like, no doubt. Vendors like us, man, we appreciate like opportunities where we could have a spotlight where we could like sell our clothes and like have like what you're saying, like San Francisco is one of the most expensive cities in the world. Yeah, no doubt. And you have to like pay storefront for like, say if you want to lease it, you're at least spending like $2,000 to $3,000 a month. Oh yeah, if you're lucky. If you're lucky. I mean, it's dumb expensive. And like I looked at retail spaces on Lenses Street to potentially open a store, and like a lot of the spaces that were just normal, nothing crazy. Yeah. 1,500 square feet. Some of them are going for like $8,000. Wow. You know? So to try to do something on Valencia Street is brutally expensive. Yeah. And to be able to have like yesterday, I was like, there is so much commerce happening right now. So many people are like bringing in income. Yep. To me, I'm like, that's what it's all about, Yeah. Entrepreneurs making money. Yeah. I mean, the time, especially this time, like I think the pandemic really kind of shifted everything to go online and like really start a business. Oh yeah. Be an entrepreneur. Yeah, totally. I think that's like the only way to really get out of poverty or like be a self-sufficient person. Agreed. Totally agreed. But speaking of like entrepreneurship, what would be like your top thing in your journey of being an entrepreneur, like all the trials and tribulations? Yeah. What's something that you would like give tribute to? I would say for me, it was a friend. So I would say what got me, that made me feel like, all right, I can do this, was a friend named Shane Nesbitt, who is a very close friend of mine, is a close friend of mine on the peninsula. He opened up a record shop called Below the Surface. And then that was like no one I knew had really like done anything like that. And he opened up that shop on his own and grinded and hustled, and it got a lot of love. Like he put out records, and it was a hip hop record shop, and it was a lot of underground tapes and records.
And I was like, that is so fucking cool how he pulled it off. It works. Now he has a barbershop and now he's doing that.
Yeah.
But to me, that was like, I would say that was what sparked that like confidence. Like, I want to try something, you know?
Yeah. And this was how long ago?
I mean, he did that 90, maybe 2000. Maybe it was 2000, 99 to 2000. I think it was 2000.
Damn, that's sick, man.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like entrepreneurship, really what it is. It's just like finding something what you're passionate about and just like getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
But what would be like some advice you would give, like, say, somebody in high school trying to figure themselves out? Or...
Yeah. Oh, man, that's a good question.
I know it's kind of cheesy, but I think like a lot of people could, you know.
No. Yeah, I mean, I'd say, I know this is gonna also sound cheesy, but like, look within, you know, like look within, like what gives you that like feeling of like, yes, this is something I want to be a part of. I also really believe that you don't always have to do something that, like, when people are like, you have to find your dream passion and it has to be the perfect fit.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not always how it works, and you can get towards that by like taking steps. I think a lot of people want to skip a lot of steps and get right to that perfect spot immediately. Yeah. And for some people it just works out that way. I think for others it's like you might have to hustle in some ways that wasn't exactly perfect. Like for me, I wasn't like hyped on doing valet parking, but it was a means to an end, and it opened up other doors. And it opened up, like, for instance, the city station, like that would not exist without the valet parking. Actually, the stores wouldn't exist. Like, that's all because of the foundation, that the grind, you know? Right. So I look at it as like, if someone's like ready to be an entrepreneur, look inside and like be like, all right, what's an absolute no, and what can I tolerate, and where do I want to be?
Yeah, I mean, that's good advice, man. I would say, looking with inside, sometimes people just get too scared, like trying to just jump, you know?
They get too scared. They also look at others in maybe not the most inspiring way. Like for me, like when I referenced Shane, I wasn't like jealous of him. I was like proud of him, and I wanted to like see myself in that same kind of similar situation. I think a lot of people, they're like, I want to be like that person because I'm like envious or jealous, and I want to do what they're doing because like I feel bad about myself or something. And I think that's the wrong way to go about it. Like, look at it as like a way to like inspire you, and don't compare yourself, but like use it as a way to prop yourself up. And you don't always have to do exactly what someone else is doing. And I think Instagram and social media is kind of warping people's minds because they see, you see like people like, you see a lot of toxic shit there, but you also see like situations where it's just not attainable. I'm like, people don't know that person's story. They don't know, you know, a lot like this, the saying, I was like born on a home plate and they act like it hit a home run, you know? There's a lot of that shit. And I'm like, don't compare yourselves to others in that way. So it's use people, like the hustle that you see out there, use it to motivate you, but don't use it to like bum yourself out. And don't set a bar so high that you'll never achieve it.
Right. I mean, like what you said, like just have steps to get there, right?
Yeah, steps.
Because it's like if you aim for something too beyond, like, you know,
and sometimes that's what you gotta do, and it works for someone, but I don't think it works for everyone. Right. And it doesn't work. It wouldn't work for me. Yeah. What
would you say your family helped you out, like building your business and like trying to like?
Did you have a mentorship?
Yeah, so my family's an interesting one. I'm an only child, and I'm an only child. That's I'm also first generation American, and so I would say that like my parents split, and my dad like moved away, and like my mom and I didn't talk to my dad. But I live with my mom, and she basically had to rebuild her life like in her late 50s because of the divorce and big mess there. But she was very supportive of me. She was very she was so happy when I started like the Valley business. Even when I went off to school, like she was so supportive and so happy that I was like doing something. And didn't like, and because of how supportive she was, I also wasn't like this fucked up person because she was, divorce can really mess some kids up and all that shit. Yeah, it can wreck kids. So for me, I was like, all right, the confidence that she had in me helped a lot. For what it's worth.
That's awesome.
But as far as the business stuff, it was not to be like, I came from the mud and it came from nothing. I'm not trying to tell that story, but I mean, there was zero outside support, none. It was all loans and after the student loans, it was bank loans. There was a hustle. There was a really big hustle there.
Damn.
Yeah. And then through the business, got to pay off the loans. Yeah.
So. Have you ever got any like venture capital money, like investor trying to invest in your
I've
companies?
had meetings with a few, and it just didn't make sense for us. Yeah, I think that the vision that they had didn't feel right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel like San Francisco, especially like Silicon Valley, it could be like they just want like money hungry and like all this stuff. But what do you think about Supreme selling them? I think they sold their company to a venture capital firm.
Oh yeah. They sold to the Carlyle Group.
Oh, Carlyle. Yep.
And then the Carlyle Group sold to VF Corp.
That's crazy.
I mean,
anyway, VF Corp like owns like Nike or
Vans
and
Nautica,
North Face.
Oh yeah, they got a huge portfolio.
Yeah,
they're massive. I mean, I respect it. Like, that's like an amazing story. Yeah, I'm like, these guys started a skate shop in New York City and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar brand. Like,
it's impressive.
It's impressive. I mean, everything they've done is incredibly impressive. I also look at that as like an incredibly high, that's a perfect example of like, that's such a high bar just to even like reach the Supreme level. It's such a high bar that I'm like, not everyone has to be like Supreme, you know, they don't have to be at that level. That's a crazy level. I mean, if you look at the collaborations they've done and like
huge.
Yeah. It's one of the tightest ran brands I've ever seen. But as far as like what they did, I mean, fuck it, I back it.
Yeah,
make that money. Yeah, it helps them expand. You know, everyone's like, yo, you got to stay small or this or that. I'm like, that doesn't seem like the Supreme trajectory makes sense to stay small. There's nothing small about Supreme.
Yeah. I mean, there's always like those people who are like, oh, you're selling your soul because like, you know, you're selling it to a venture capital firm that just wants profits, you know. But
there's nothing about Supreme that makes me believe that they don't just want profits. Right.
There's
nothing in the Supreme business model, or when you look at Supreme, I mean, okay, I take that back. They brand themselves and they keep their drops limited so that it doesn't like blow out. It's not a blowout and then it doesn't hurt their brand. They run their brand very tight, but it's to make money, and I think what they did is logical and it makes perfect sense. I don't see any selling out there.
Yeah.
I think for certain, I think if their brand went to shit and they started doing some really cheesy stuff and everything looked bad and the quality went down, I'm like, damn, that sucks. That's a sad story. But they kept the quality the same. I don't see any sellout.
Yeah. I mean, it can be argued, but
it can. Yeah, it totally can.
Yeah. No, I there was another brand, Diamond Supply. There was like a huge brand in San Francisco. I think they.
Oh, I know Diamond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick Trichet. He started Diamond, and he started as a hardware company. So it's another great story. It's like he started this massive brand out of selling skateboard hardware.
Yeah.
And that's where the Diamond Supply came from. The supply was the hardware, and he grew it into like a multi-million-dollar brand. Yeah. And the dude made it. Props to him.
Yeah. No, I like how there's like a bunch of brands that like start small and then like you never would imagine that like you're becoming so big where you need to like sell yourself.
Yeah, those are wild stories, and props to I always felt like there should have been like a documentary around the Diamond story, because it literally was like starting from a little Bolt brand to like
I had no idea,
huge brand. Yeah, it's amazing. Huge. Started in San Francisco.
Yeah. Last question: Where can people find where Atlas is? I know you have a store in San Mateo. I know you're like. You have a bunch of different businesses.
Yeah.
You didn't even go through them. Like you're working at a studio and all that kind of stuff.
No, it's fine. So Atlas, we have a website called atlasskateboarding.com. We have our store in downtown San Mateo, and then we also partner with Deluxe on a store on Market Street, 1831 Market Street. So that's where they can find Atlas or Deluxe.
Okay, man. Well, I appreciate you, man. I know you're busy, man.
Very humble.
Very humble.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Fuck yeah. Right on for coming, man.
Thanks for listening.
Oh, yeah.